What's up, guys? As requested, we're going to do the S24 versus the LG V60 here, and let's go ahead and get started here. I could definitely see why a ton of you wanted to see this comparison. LG is no longer making phones, and I think a lot of LG users are actually switching to Samsung. So I think it's pretty interesting. This could be a good upgrade for you. You are going to be losing quite a bit, though. Well, not quite a bit, but you will be gaining some stuff as well too. But let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's talk about the build quality. These are two very big phones, and I think the LG V60 is actually a little bit bigger. But very big phones, both glass and metal designs, both IP68 dust and water resistant. There's quite a few differences with the hardware here. So I do like the matte finish on the S24 Ultra. It does look really nice. You don't get those fingerprints like you do on a glossy finish. And as far as the hardware goes, you have a built-in S Pen, of course, on the S24. So basically, you can do digital artwork, you can take notes, all that good stuff. It's extremely accurate. You also do have pen support on the V60 as well too. It's just not built into the phone. But you do down here have a 3.5mm headphone jack with a quad DAC. So the V60 is actually really great for people who are really into audio. I think Sony is the only one, I think, that does the quad DAC on their premium phones. So yeah, the quad DAC is a kind of a rare feature these days. Also, the V60 does have SD card support, and the S24 does not. So you will be losing those two things basically. So the V60 has S Pen, SD card, and the headphone jack. And it also has dual screen case support as well too. So you guys can see it's a very feature packed phone. So I can see why a lot of people were gonna hold on to their V60 for a minute. I can definitely see that. And the S24 does have the titanium design on here, but honestly it still doesn't feel that different as far as weight from the V60 if you just hold them both in the hand. These are both kind of not heavy phones, but they both have a bit of weight to it. But those are the essential hardware differences with these two devices. As far as the screens go, the S24 obviously has a better screen here. And yeah, it's an excellent part of the S24. Samsung makes some of the best panels here. So it's got a 6.8-inch display. It's 1440p 505 for the PPI. It's LTPO AMOLED, 120 Hz, HDR10 plus, and has a crazy max brightness of 2600 nits peak brightness. So it's much brighter than the V60 in direct sunlight. And then for the V60, it does have a 6.8-inch OLED display. It is HDR10 plus. There is no high refresh rate. It's only 60 Hz, and it's 1080p 395 for the PPI. So as you can see, just much slimmer bezels too as well on the S24, and you don't have the water drop notch. You have the punch hole, and overall, it's a really good display. I mean, in comparison, the V60 does have a really good panel though. The color wise looks really great. But if you're like a display person, you know, obviously you're gonna really like the 120 Hertz. You're gonna really like that the max brightness is, you know, pretty crazy in direct sunlight as well too. But overall, the V60 does get points for having that dual screen case support. So essentially you can turn it into two phones basically with that case, and you can do really some excellent multitasking. So that's definitely something to consider. So you are getting a better screen on the S24, but with the V60 you get more functionality with this display if you get the dual screen case. And I think, you know, like I've said, the 60 Hz panel here, it is really smooth though. So it's not like it's a slow 60 Hz panel. But yeah, definitely the S24's display is definitely a highlight for the device. Alright, so the specs on these two devices. So the V60 is by no means a slow phone at all, even if you were looking at these Geekbench scores. In the real world, it's still very fast. The S24 is running One UI 6.1, Android 14, Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Again, no SD card support, 256 gigs of internal storage, 12 gigs on the base model. This is the 512 gigabyte version though. And the V60 has the Snapdragon 865 chip. The last majorOS update was Android 13, SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 8 gigs of RAM on the base model. And you can see the scores here on Geekbench 6. So basically, speed-wise, the V60 is actually still surprisingly fast. It feels really, really great. You can see able to keep up with the S24 Ultra pretty much when it comes to just opening applications and stuff like that. I think the only thing you'll notice is probably scrolling is definitely faster, feels smoother on the 120 hertz panel for sure. But in general, the V60 is not a slow phone at all. So you guys can see S24 faster, but not that much faster. Let's see what else can we open up. TikTok. And we got a log out right there. Cameras. So you can see it's still pretty fast for the most part. Let's hop into PUBG. And be sure to drop your comparisons, guys. We're going to be finishing up the S24 Ultra comparisons this week, so got a few more days left. Looks like the V60 actually beat it there in PUBG. And if you're gaming, the gaming situation is pretty interesting because if you do get the dual screen case, you're able to see the PUBG map and you're able to see the map on Asphalt and a few other games that are compatible with the case. And the V60 is still actually able to play games really well. It's HDR Extreme. If it had high refresh rate display, it could do the 90 frames for PUBG. But anything that I've thrown at the V60 is still really smooth. With the Snapdragon 865, don't really have heating issues with this phone. So it's very, very smooth. But you will be able to play PUBG on the S24 at 90 frames. And like I said, you will be able to take advantage of games with, the higher refresh rate for sure. So the gaming experience, like I said, it really depends on how much you game. If you really play a lot of shooters, of course you're going to want that 90 frames competitively. But, is it worth like the cost? Of this phone for sure. That's something you have to make up your mind with. Both phones actually do really good with battery life. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But as far as the gaming experience goes, yes, the S24 is better. It's going to score better in benchmarks and FPS and all that good stuff. But for the casual gamer, you won't notice too much of a difference. And then, like I said, you do have the advantage with the case. Let's check out these speakers at max volume. Yeah, so I really like the sound coming out of both, but I do think the S24 Ultra has a slightly louder and a slightly cleaner sound as well too. It just sounds much, much cleaner. But the V60 is pretty loud. It has a really good amount of bass. But I would give it to the S24, but it's just as loud, if not a little bit louder, but the sound is way cleaner. It's way more balanced. You've also got the advantage of the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. The V60 does have an optical one, so you can see the difference with the optical one is that if you lightly tap it, it won't register, so you have to apply a little bit of pressure to it, which is not a big deal, but it is easier getting into the S24 because it's just a lighter tap. And also, you cannot use any type of face unlock on the V60. You can use face unlock on the S24. Now, what's pretty interesting is that LG does have desktop support on here as well too. And I just thought that was something to mention just in case you want to plug up your device. You get that functionality, which I think is pretty cool. But I do think Samsung desktop support is better in my opinion, just using the two. Samsung desktop support is definitely way more polished than LG's. And of course you get the hi-fi quad DAC settings that you can mess with, and it's really nice, guys. You can mess with the equalizer, all that good stuff is built in right here. And yeah, if you got a good pair of headphones, this thing's gonna sound amazing when it comes to listening to high quality audio. So definitely that's an awesome feature. I really wish they would bring that back to more phones. But yeah, as far as the software wise, you know, Samsung One UI definitely has a lot going on too. So tons of customization you can do as well. And of course, you get 7 years of MageOS updates with the S24 Ultra. I'm going to show you guys these side-by-side stills, but the cameras were pretty interesting, so let me know what you guys think about the cameras. So you have 200 megapixel standard on the S24, 50 megapixel periscope telephoto. It has the 5 times optical zoom, and then you have a 10 megapixel telephoto lens on here too. And then you also have, and that has the 3 times optical, and then you also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, shoots in 8K 30. And then you also have a 12 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. The V60 does have a 64 megapixel standard, 13 megapixel ultra wide, 0.3 depth sensor, 8K 30, 10 megapixel selfie cam at 4K 30. Check out these side-by-side stills. Let me know what you guys think. Now this might surprise a few of you, but the V60 has really good battery life, even in comparison to the S24. The battery life is really good, guys. It's got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. It has wireless charging as well too, and it has excellent standby time as well. The S24 does have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 45 watt charging, wireless and reverse wireless charging as well, and it also has excellent battery life. So the battery life is just great on both of these. So I think that, you know, you can't go wrong either way as far as screen on time. But yeah, so be sure to let me know what you guys thought. Would you upgrade your V60 to the S24? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.